on Chaumont Bay. We're going after walleyes, we're going after perch. It's hard not to get excited about Chaumont Bay. You check out the internet, you see the biggest walleyes in New York. You see buckets of limitless perch. And we, my buddies and I, had to go. So we found a place to rent on Verbo. We went on YouTube and we researched everything we could about where and how and when. And we went and we spent a couple 4 days up there. And it was great. But there's some things that I really wish this YouTube existed so that I could have prepared myself some more. I'm not an expert on Chaumont Bay, but it seems like most of the experts on Chaumont Bay don't have anything on YouTube. So I'm giving you what we learned from the days that we spent there, and I hope that it helps. My name's Roger from Roger's Rigs. I'm really obsessed with perch fishing, particularly over on this side of the Adirondacks. You'll see all sorts of videos we have over on our channel. We make jigs and rigs that catch fish, and we fish a lot. But we went over there and we learned a couple things. Number one, set reasonable expectations. Of course, the internet, sets us up for a fail there. It's a it's the biggest freshwater bay in the world, and it is hard to know where to go and where the action's at. And if you're going up for a weekend, I mean, you set your expectations accordingly. Unless you've got a guide or some sort of inside information or you get stupid lucky, it's not going to be like something you're going to make a living out of here. But you're going to find a few things. One is the fish are meandering. That surprised me. Like, I fish a lot of different lakes, and I know, particularly with perch, it doesn't favor the patient person. With perch, if you're not catching something in a hole in a few minutes, you move to the next hole and you keep looking until you find the mother lode, and then you reel in one after another hole, and you can watch videos of us doing that. But on this lake, we were blown away. These guys are loading up their four-wheelers at the launch. They're buzzing out for 3.5, 4 miles. They slow down for a second. Looks like they're looking on their navionics to get the exact spot. They drill 3 holes, set up their tent, and they stay there for 10 hours. My theory is this, and I've seen this happen in the St. Lawrence before. The fish, the perch, and the walleyes follow what they call runways or roads or highways. There's enough topography in this bay, these shoals and everything. They've got hills and valleys and everything, and the fish kind of run through those. And guys are positioning themselves on those spots, particularly after these walleyes. And these walleyes are huge. I mean, 32-inch walleye is a big fish. But they're fishing them almost like you're hunting a big buck. Like you find the good pathway where that buck's gonna have to cross some point. You sit your tree stand there and you sit there till he comes by. And I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here as well. And you have to either get lucky or learn like crazy. The navionics we thought was going to be, it was going to help us immensely, and it certainly did, but the navionics don't give you a feel of the vastness of this bay. And we got out there and we're looking down at the navionics and then looking up, and it was like you're lost again. It was just vast. Where is that island? It's so far away. Or you'll see what looked like a clump of guys all together a mile away. You drive over there, there's a half a mile between the guys. Like, they're not that close together. It was a visual thing. It was almost like being out in a big desert. You lose some track of the size and the scale of things. So we used the navionics and the research we had, and we found places off of the shoals. There's two main shoals, which are huge in and of themselves. And this time, when we went in late February, it seemed like the zone was like 16 to 20 feet deep, kind of off of the steeper sides of one of those shoals. And the first day we got straight up lucky, kind of looking at that, killed the motor on the Snow Dog in the pouring rain, and drilled holes. I had fish on the screen right there. I was like, sweet. And we set up a tent. We kind of did what other people were doing to that point. And we fished, and a group of decent-sized perch went through. We got 10 of them, like, fast. And then it went dead for about an hour and a half. And then maybe 5 would go through. I'm not a patient person. I was like, I can improve on this. If we got this lucky in this spot, then we must be able to do better if we move around. There must be a mother load of them somewhere. And there may have been, but I covered 2.7 miles on foot, drilling quite often, particularly in places that look like they'd be high probability, or where I'd seen other people drilled within the last couple weeks. I only moved fish on 2 other holes out of all those holes. And it seemed like we had picked a pretty good spot. I did catch a whitefish. It is one of the grossest days I've ever seen. There's 3-4 inches of water on the ice. It is raining like crazy. And in other records, got my first whitefish. Right in the perch ground. Out here, caught a couple perch. And got that beauty. We'll see. It's an adventure. Who knows what lies beneath. Back in that same location where we first found the fish, we ended up with a 36-inch northern pike on a tip-up. But eventually we just kind of hunkered in, thought maybe this would also be a place where those walleyes would go through, and we set a spread of tip-ups, and we were ready to activate when a tip-up went up. We figured it was a perch, and it was not just one perch, it was a group of perch. And that strategy got us through. But another thing that we learned, I mean, it felt, by day 2, it felt like this trip was more like a Jim Cantori storm story than a fishing trip. We saw almost 2 inches of rain. We saw 10 degrees with wind and snow blowing sideways. And then the final day we saw 55-mile-an-hour winds, just absolute whiteout conditions. This is as close to outdoors as we've gotten. Which brings up another thing. First, if you're scheduling a trip, if you can block yourself out 4 days instead of 2 days. I know it's cost more, but you might end up going there for the wrong 2 days and hardly be able to fish at all, or force yourself to fish in conditions that are straight up dangerous. This is not a real safe place for those who don't really know the area really well. Certainly not early ice. We went over acres of areas where the ice that was about 1.5 inches thick had been blown and smashed up, and it had all frozen fused together, but it was all vertical, just shales of ice that way. There was other areas where I drilled and I dropped, I was in 20 feet of water, and I could not see my jig, a 2/3 ounce jig, on the Vexilar screen. I thought there was something wrong with my screen. Eventually I looked down the hole. It was running off on a 3/4 angle off to the side. There's enough current out there that it was blowing my lure outside of the cone of my Vexilar. Those kind of conditions, those factors, the fact that the fire department often has to go out in the late season to pick people up that have been busted off on chunks of ice and floating back out into Lake Ontario, it means, A, don't be the first one on the ice. I would say once you've heard that people are out there, if you haven't gone there often, give it a good 2 weeks after. Yeah, the fishing might not be as hot, but you're more likely to survive, which is another significant bonus, I'd say. So that's like the main thing. You got to stay safe. You got to give yourself some time. You got to have realistic expectations. And from my experience, you have to be thinking sitting on fish rather than moving after fish. There's certainly a balance there, but I would say that balance is more towards sitting still than you would be normally used to on other lakes. As far as what we used to catch them with, I had the best luck. I got 28 out of one hole very fast in probably 10 minutes on a Glo-Perch Chain Jig. It dropped fast. I had a fly up above it. and they were hitting it very aggressively. I see the local hardware store, of course, has the most popular lures for there. They're selling those bibbits. Bibbits are an embarrassing looking little lure. But they definitely work because they drop down fast. These fish were in these like a wolf pack basically. And if that pack lost interest, if you had a jig out, if you had a fish that was gut hooked and you had to spend an extra moment getting it out, the pack would leave and your heart would go with it. The beauty of those bibbits, the hook comes out of the mouth very fast to get it off the hook and get back down there. And the thing is just a big glob of lead, and it drops fast and it drops straight down. It even worked against that current. So the bibbits definitely seem to be a good match in there. And the other one was those perch grabbers. Big shiny erratic action, and it looks to me, based on what I could see in there, you kind of have to call fish from further away, and those kind of lures with the shiny action seem to have that pulling capacity that might cover a bigger area for you, so you don't have to drill quite as much. Oh, there was a whole bunch of nothing, and then there was something. Huh. When you finally find them, or when they find you, it's pretty hot. And the sunset is pretty beautiful. What a place. What a day. That's basically what we learned. We had a great time. We learned one day when it was 55 degree wind, we went out for an hour just to experience the madness of it. But we saw some amazing things, the sunsets, the different place, the different experience, the potential for different species and really trophy species. It is really quite a fishery, and it is worth checking out, but it's worth kind of setting your mind correctly. I hope this helps. If you're interested at all in any other perch fishing videos, my channel is loaded with lots of stuff over there. And please like and subscribe.